W. Kamau Bell, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. And I just realized that I didn't realize that like season four of United Shades of America is about to
April
happen.
28th.
So you're in the middle of a massive media blitz.
I mean, this is the kickoff of it. It's starting in about a week. So you got the exclusive kickoff of the massive media blitz. Yeah.
I didn't realize. I appreciate you cutting out a slice of time for me.
I mean, I'm in New York. I don't come that often, and now that I got like 1,000 children, I don't see the people that I used to see. And so, when I know people are around, I'm like, if I can figure it out how to Tom Roach, yeah. So I told my wife, I was like, Tom Roach. She's all right, I get it.
So, how many kids do you have?
3, which when you're in the Bay Area, that feels like 1,000 because nobody has 3 kids.
Well, I mean, I dream of having a kid, and my marriage just ended. I'm sure you're aware of.
I'm aware.
And now having a kid seems so distant to me, so I'm full of envy and jealousy. So.
Well, you come to the house. There's lots of kids. Next time you're in town, you were in San Francisco last week, right?
I was.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like any comic who I'm friends with there in San Francisco, you can come to Oakland, hang out with some kids, have a
I'll be back up in September for some gigs.
Well, then just come by. You got to come across the bridge, but we're there.
I will, yeah. and it's nice in the Punchline. San Francisco, the dressing room is your framed cover of SF Weekly.
That was like, I mean, I spent a lot of time in that club. I spent more time than a lot of comics who spent time in that club just because I didn't move to LA. And so at some point when I was in that club, spent a lot more time than the regular comics. So I'm like, have I become that guy who's just hanging out? Like with nothing to show for it other than the random Wednesday night headliner gig?
Yeah. I mean, that place is my mecca, my spiritual comedy home. Yeah. And it's nice to see.
So I feel good that like there's a record. I haven't been there in a while, but there's a record that I was there. So I feel, and also that I brought hopefully some shine to the club because the local media doesn't always talk about comedy in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, back then they didn't.
You should see what Orlando does for me. I would say they thought Jesus was a punk in Nazareth. He had to take his show on the road to Jerusalem.
Exactly. No man's a prophet in his own town, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, you would know better than anybody because, you work for CNN and then you have, I think, probably the most important television show in America and the world right now. How close are we to Civil War and what can we expect?
That's funny. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's very clear.
Let's just get right to what's most important.
Let's get right to the things.
Should we start sandbagging the front of our houses?
I mean, where you live, it depends where you live. Yeah, if you live in some parts of the country, start sandbagging. I mean, I think that we have, it's funny. The show, it features a lot of beautiful conversations, and it features me sort of having conversations with people I would never have talked to before. And, we have an episode this season about the Hmong people who come from, Laos and Cambodia, and about how they fought in the Secret War, which is Vietnam. All this American history that we don't talk about. And I just had my mouth open the whole time like, what? And I'm really pleased with the beautiful conversations we have in the show. But it also, we also have a show about white people in Tacoma, Washington protesting a Nazi-owned tattoo shop. So it's like there's these two things that are happening.
Oh, like the liberals are being a little too touchy.
No. Like there's a tattoo shop literally in Tacoma, Washington that is owned by Nazis, certified Nazis, that has been exposed as being a Nazi-owned tattoo shop. And the white people there, instead of doing what white people like to do a lot of times, I don't know what to do. There's people called the Redneck Revolt. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
They're most white-led Second Amendment gun advocates, but on the side of the good side. So it's like white people who grew up in rural towns. I mean, something like this. You grew up in Florida,
I know these.
You got some pretty liberal policies, and so these are white people who grew up as gun advocates and own guns, but they take their guns and to go to protect Black Lives Matter protests and
That's great.
Yeah.
I've been trying to ring the alarm in California.
Yeah.
That we need to prepare for when Texas invades California.
Exactly.
We need a better plan than putting slippery yoga mats at the border to slip them up.
Well, that's why
I think shit is really serious.
No, I do think it's really, and I think that we have to really understand that things have. The Bay Area response when Trump was first running was like, I'm not even going to say his name out loud. I'm going to have, there's a filter on Facebook where you can block him and you don't have to see. And I think that's what led us to here. And I think the other thing is we have to recognize that it's going to take real systemic change to get things back on the right track. and it's not going to be stuff that's going to be easy.
You're more hopeful than I am. I don't think we'll ever get right back on track.
I mean, here's the thing. I think I am, despite what I talk about, I am a hopeful person, but not without work. I feel like, I was saying somebody the other day, it's like MLK said, I've been to the promised land because he was hopeful. He didn't go, I haven't seen the promised land. I don't know what it looks like. You know, like, you have to sort of, like, I think the history of struggle in this country, especially as a black person, is that being hopeful, but also we got to walk to Washington, you know? We also have to have a bus. I don't think
there's enough outrage, and there's not enough protesting and marching going on, and the system is rigged with the voting gerrymandering, and like people's votes don't even count.
The electoral college.
I think the electoral college system is it's laughable.
Well, I'm finally the thing that's great.
Why can't one vote be one vote?
And the people who explain to you why it can't, you'll still be like, I still don't understand.
Oh, it means rich white people will be in charge forever. And it's also
directly connected to the electoral college, as I'm sure you know. It's directly connected to slavery. Like the South was like, we got a lot of people down here, but they're not all citizens, but we need to count part of them. So that's where the electoral college comes from. Is like the 3/5 rule. We need to these blacks don't vote, but we'd like to count them as people a little bit. So
right.
I think that that's the thing I'm sort of not excited about, but I'm not only am I engaging with people on the ground, activists, and like supporting those people as I can. You have to be engaged in more than one level of the fight. So some of it is like there's an organization called Donors Choose where teachers go, I need books for my kids, and you can give them like $100. They're like, thank you, we can now have books, and you feel like, all right, I did something.
What is this called?
Donors Choose. Donors Choose. You can search it by zip code. You can find the schools you went to. You can find the schools in the area where you live.
Donors Choose. DonorsChoose.org. And
there'll be it'll literally be like if you search your zip code, it'll pull up all the public schools in your area, and you can search. Teachers have different projects. Some might be like, we need pens and pencils. Some may be like, we need an iPad. And some may be like, we need a new saxophone. So whatever sort of gets you off as far as like what you want to do. But it's a way to sort of feel like I'm doing something. And I think we have to, it's sometimes you do feel like you have to organize a march? Well, you might, but also there's other things you can do when you're not organizing the march. So I think you have to really be looking for multiple levels of helping, and it's not because not all of us are going to go to the march even when the march happens because some of us are on the road. You know what I mean? But like we have to find multiple levels of helping. So I'm also work with the ACLU a lot. There's an organization called Pack the Courts, which is trying to disrupt how the Supreme Court is put together. Because as we know, the Supreme Court has been set up in a way that, like, right now the Republicans are putting on the most sort of their best people, the people they love the most, and also stopping other people from being on, like Merrick Garland when Obama wanted to put him on. So there's an organization called Pack the Courts, which believes you can figure out a way to expand the number of people on the Supreme Court so that if a Democrat wins, we could put like 3 more seats on the Supreme Court. So you have to also be thinking about like these moonshot things. I think a lot of times liberals...
Like I think, why are these people? Why is that an appointment for life? Why do they have to be like Pope John Paul II drooling on themselves? Exactly. The last 10 years they're going to be there. I gotta like hope that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's heart, stays strong.
Yeah, and you would think that like I feel like when Obama was in there, why didn't like 3 or 4 of you just like step down and let him like refresh the brand?
Right.
But then maybe that we'd have 3 or 4 more Republicans in there because they would have figured out a way not to let Obama do his job like they did with Merrick Garland. So I'm a fan of like all like the moonshots where you're like you sort of like, we're not going to put more seats in the Supreme Court, but I know people are like, yeah, we can figure it out. Okay, well let me support this, and also like let me also show up for the ACLU when they ask me to, and let me tweet out the thing, and let me give this school $200 so that their kids can have the STEM things they need to teach. I think we have to think of it as more than just one thing. I think a lot of people think of it as just like, I had one conversation with my uncle that didn't go well. I did what I could. Or I went to the March for Women.
You mean that wasn't enough?
It wasn't enough. No. Or I went to the March for Women.
Blocking my brother on Facebook wasn't enough?
That's probably not good. There's probably not going to be a stamp for that one day or a holiday. Just to commemorate the day that Tom Rhodes blocked his brother. And when somehow that was like the butterfly that started the whole tornado on the other side of the planet, that was the moment of change. That's not going to be Rosa Parks on the back of the bus, Tom Rhodes like this blocking his brother, probably on your phone.
Well, it felt good.
Yeah, I mean, it felt good. But I think that, like, and sometimes you do want to do things that feel good. And sometimes it is like, I'm going to turn off the things that are just annoying me and aren't leading me.
Well, I got a more serious problem then, and we'll talk about that later.
Well, I'm saying
my problem, like, I'm a socialist,
yes.
And I lived in Holland, and I think that healthcare and education should be affordable, and I've traveled the world.
Yeah.
The German Constitution recognizes education is a basic human right, so every citizen gets free university education
Yeah.
on top of health care.
Yeah.
And I don't want like extreme Scandinavian, chunks of my paycheck taken out. But
Yeah.
but I think the United States, I mean, we already have basic socialism, and it should be expanded where people can have good long lives.
Yes.
But I think the Democrats might be going a little too hard socialism right now to alienate those 30 or 40 voters that might have someone beat Trump in the next election.
I mean, but I think
or am I just worried about 40 people that don't matter?
I think that we're allowing the right to lead the discussion.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of panic. It's like the thing about like it's like right. I feel like when people say the Democrats are going too hard to the left, because a lot of people I know are like, this isn't that hard to the left. You want us to go hard to the left? People in Berkeley and Oakland.
No,
Yeah.
and that's how I feel.
Yeah. So
because I'm so hard left that to me the Democrats are scumbag right wing people.
Exactly. That's what
which is the fucked up thing about within my family. They want to hold me accountable for everything that the Democrats and the left do because they don't know any other left people.
Yes.
I just figured it out.
Yeah.
I'll just reveal a little bit. I was home a few weeks ago, and my brother, I go, how you doing, Dave? And he goes, oh man, great. I'm going to this new church, and it's an up-and-coming firebrand preacher. What's happening right now, Tom, is we're at war. There's a spiritual war for the heart of America happening right now. And we're on and we're at war with the left. And you're the embodiment of the left because the left is trying to advance the liberal gay agenda in this country. And I told my brother, what you call the liberal gay agenda, I call the teachings of Christ. To be compassionate.
This is good. This is like
and be caring of others.
Yeah.
The way Jesus taught us to.
Yeah.
And it's and he's going off about heartbeat bends at conception and and marriages between a man and a woman and I'm trying to explain to him whether or not two men butt fuck or a woman gets an abortion is not my choice.
Yeah.
I have an opinion that I think gay people and transgender people are human beings equal and deserve protection under the law, and a woman has the right to do what she wants with her own body.
Yeah.
And it got really ugly, man, and so there was more to my brother basically just told me he's at war with me. And he's the brother that I get along with.
Wow. Yeah. So that's funny. Your brother's going to, first of all, he's going to hate the next season of United Shades of America. We have a mega church episode that talks about politics in churches. And how,
if you're going to a church and they're preaching war and enemies,
Yeah.
and I told him, I go, I'm not your enemy. I'm your brother.
Yeah.
And the one of the number one things the Bible says is to love your brother.
Yeah.
And they're like such massive Christians.
Yep.
Who are constantly quoting scripture and going to the Bible.
Yep.
And they can't even. Anyway.
No, I mean, I think we talked about that in the episode about how, because some people say that churches shouldn't be political, and I'm like, no, church is always political. Churches, without politics in church, there wouldn't be the Civil Rights Amendment. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I agree with that.
But the idea is that we have to at least be honoring what the actual, if we're talking about Jesus, like you're saying, if we're talking about Jesus, whether we're talking about him as a real person who lived or just a bunch of quotes that are attributed to this real person who may, or I'm not trying to get into that idea, but the message is clearly love and acceptance and understanding, and they didn't get to transgender people in the Bible because they get to a lot of stuff, but clearly for him to love this Mary Magdalene person who was supposed to be the worst of the worst, it's like that's an allegory for all these things that we're calling the worst of the worst,
Yeah.
And so we talk about that in the episode about how can you, and then there's a lot of preachers who claim they're not political at all, but I'm like, but by not talking about politics, you're being political. By not sort of if you're in Texas, which we were, and you're not talking about what's going on at the border, that's a political statement you're making.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the message is inconsistent with, as you say, with the actual person. And a lot of preachers, and I bet that preacher that he goes to probably has a real nice car,
Yeah, of course.
And a real nice house.
But if you're going to a church and they're preaching war and enemies, you're going to the wrong church.
Well, because it's the thing is, you are going to the wrong church, but I think that the money's in fear. The money's not in love.
Well, that's the power paradigm of this country.
Yeah, and and
then who would have thought that? I never knew there was that much racial animosity to hold to manipulate.
Well, it's like people,
which you might find that laughable.
Well, no, I've had this conversation a lot, so I understand. But I haven't, but I think the problem is that Obama sort of Obama was basically the person who turned over the log. And all this stuff that is sort of like, people thought, well, I can't say this stuff out loud anymore. Suddenly, then they were like, I can say it out loud. And the guy who was telling them to say it out loud, who was questioning where Obama was born, is the guy who's now president. So, like, they feel totally vindicated.
Well, and that was another thing. My brother, and he said this at the beginning of the conversation, that Obama is a foreign-born Muslim. He honestly fucking believes that. So how can you reason with people who can't even grasp basic truths?
Yeah, we talked
to my mother. She thinks that Hillary Clinton sold 30% of our uranium to the Russians, and she brings it up all the time.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I can intellectually grasp that Hillary Clinton wasn't the best candidate, and she wasn't my choice. I wanted Bernie.
Yeah.
A Jewish socialist. Oh my God, that's like my dream come true. Of where this country should be heading.
Yeah.
And oh my God, and now they're making socialism a bad word, and they're even trying to make it like the left is against Israel.
Well, I mean, I even had I just saw today. I was at CNN, and CNN was on the TV because that's how it works sometimes. And I was watching Joe Biden had some sort of impromptu press conference, and he's talking about how people say I'm a moderate, but it's like my ideas have always been progressive, but it seems like progressive has gotten more progressive, and I was like, exactly, that's how it works. What is progress 50 years ago is not progress anymore. And so I think that there's this idea that that at some point there's supposed to be a stopping point. It's like, no. There's things right now that we all think are normal that in 50 years they're gonna be like, I can't believe they did that. The same way that we're the same thing. We have marriage equality now, and 50 years ago, 15 years ago, we couldn't have imagined marriage equality.
Yeah, true.
So progress is a shifting goalpost,
But there's still a large portion of the population who think that they're subhuman.
But that's true. But those people learned to. I'll say this with those people learned to shut up for a while and to keep it in the house. But now Trump and all the people who support him have invited them to come out of the house. And then the splitting of mainstream media, which I'm a fan of more voices, but the way that my friend Boots Riley talks about the algorithm, everybody's getting the algorithm the way the algorithm thinks they want it. So like if you're on Twitter, you're seeing the stuff that you like. If I'm on Twitter, I'm seeing stuff I like. But then people like your mom, if she's on Facebook or wherever, or whatever she's doing, it's the same information over and over again. So like she's probably, I don't see articles about Hillary Clinton buying uranium or selling the uranium.
Well, it never happened. I told her, there's no credible news source anywhere in the world.
And she will.
And what about the Republican Party selling out our country to the Russians?
Yeah.
If you're so angry about things being sold to Russians,
but people like your mom, and I don't know if she's online, will pull up things like Breitbart and whatever to go, here's a credible news source, and then you will find
well, that's why the internet should be regulated.
Well, it's why. There should be some level of, it shouldn't be as much the Wild West as it is. It shouldn't be, there should be some level of I mean, Facebook had to do this, where they're like, okay, we're not just going to let you just share everything about all this stuff. Because it's just the problem is we look at the social media stuff as the public good, as if Facebook is the gas company. And first of all, the gas company's not always doing the best thing for you either.
True.
But we act like that it's this thing that is here for our public good, but it's not here for our public good. It's here to make Mark Zuckerberg and his stockholders money.
Yeah.
And so the internet runs on hate. Social media runs on hate.
Selling our personal information to anybody who wants it.
Yeah, and the engine of social media is hatred and contention. So that's what. So for me, I mean, I'm on Facebook as a fan page, but I got off because I was just like, this is too much. And I'm spending too much time getting caught up in things that are not real. Right. So for me, a lot of it has been not that Twitter's like a wonderland, but it's about regulating my own input with it. Because otherwise you can get caught up in arguing with fake people. And so the thing I would say for me right now, I feel like there are people that I'm not going to win back. Like, there's people that I can't assume that I'm going to turn everybody's hearts and mind, because you don't want to turn everybody's hearts and mind. That's why we have the law, so that we can arrest murderers, because everybody's just not going to murder. Like, some people are going to murder. So we invented the law to go, okay, well, if you do murder, this is what happens.
Well, and that's the thing about your show, that, like it being on CNN, people like my brother and my mom, or people who would be enlightened by some of the things you're presenting, aren't going to watch it.
Yeah.
Because, like, CNN is the enemy, number one.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they would stumble across your show if it was on Discovery.
Well, you know what it is? A lot of times people,
the
great thing about CNN is that it's kind of everywhere, even if you don't like it. So people on the left don't suffer my show either, because they're not watching CNN either. Like, as much as people see CNN as the left, in the Bay Area, CNN is not the left.
Right.
So for me, the great thing is, like, I get all these pictures of people in airports at their gate going like, what is that guy doing? And so or you're at the dentist's office, you're like, wait, what is happening here? And so there is a sense of, like, even though it's not as cool or hip or as non-political as other networks, it's kind of everywhere. That at some point you're going to stumble across CNN, and if you see my face and you see me talking to somebody who you're like, wait, what's going on there? You will stop. So the great thing is that it's a big megaphone. It's not the coolest, hippest megaphone, but it's such a broad reach that I do get from people, because some people think CNN is the left, but then I hear from a lot of conservatives who watch CNN just because it's the news, that they want to, and if there's a plane crash, then that's where you kind of go, so. It's funny, I get a lot of, like, I'm a 68-year-old white conservative in Arkansas and I love your show, or I get like, I don't agree with all of it, but I appreciate it. And so for me, which is better than if I was on a hipper, cooler, more lefty network, So, but I just think I've got to the point where, like, I can't turn everybody. What I can do is work to move more of the people. There's all these people who are sort of in the, like, I don't know. Those are the people I want. Well, one guy said this, one guy said this, come talk to me. I'll help you understand this. And not the people who are the most sort of, like, those people are always going to exist. There's always going to be people, if you don't believe that Barack Obama, if you think there's a question about where Barack Obama was born, I'm not going to argue that fact with you.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's just not, that's a waste of my time.
Well, and I think I'm kind of preparing myself for, like, I love Bernie, I love Beto.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody stopping the monster. And,
well,
and him rolling through another term. I don't think we'll recover from this first term. I think he's going to be able to do even more fucked up things and ironclad lock them down for.
Which is why it's important to not just. I think it's important to not just focus on him and focus on the systems. Like, I think that if we just focus on, like, when is that Mueller report going to come out?
I was really counting on Russian collusion. Getting divorced and then no Russian collusion. This isn't my year.
It's not 2019 is not being friendly. And so
I really don't know.
I've lost all my Moors. No, I think that, like, getting caught up and, like, people are like, we need to see the report, and I'm like, that's so funny. I said, like, it's black people aren't usually in the position of, like, the FBI is going to save us. So for me, it's like. I wish it had said things, but I've now accepted there's nothing in that thing that's going to do what we need it to do. So we need to focus on the areas where we can actually make changes, and also think long term. Like, you should never be allowed to run for president if you haven't had a full psych exam from an independent person.
And I think your taxes. I thought that was a law.
See, that's the thing.
Before the last presidential election, I thought that you had to show your tax return.
We were all taught that there was a series of checks and balances.
Who fucking knew you didn't have to show your tax return?
Checks and balances. It was all a gentleman's agreement. And we thought democracy was.
And the fucking Republicans, they won't allow him to be inspected, when obviously, I guess they all must be getting Russian prostitutes sent to their the back rooms of their churches.
The one place me and Steve Bannon agree. For breaking news.
Do tell.
Yeah, is professional class of politicians.
What do you mean?
I think that you shouldn't be you shouldn't be as your career job as a senator. Mm-hmm. Your career job is a representative. Because what happens is, and we've seen this time and time again, this happens on the left too, but certainly Mitch McConnell is more interested in being a senator than he is in democracy.
Yeah.
He's more interested in keeping his job than he is. And the idea being that, like, once people think their job isn't assured, because it's funny to see all these, like, Trump has, like, unemployed a lot of white men. like once people think their job is at stake, they get out. They don't fight. So like Paul Ryan, who thought at one point was going to be the president, is like, wait, is this getting hard? Am I going to have to work to be okay? I'm out. I'm going to go to the private sector and just make money on boards and be a lobbyist. So for me, like the problem is like,
is this getting hard? Once you said that, I pictured Brett Kavanaugh in his little hissy fit, screaming.
Yeah. Did you
see a white guy crumbling under pressure?
I'm supposed to get what I want. I want this. Haven't you heard me say I want this? I showed up here. I put on a suit. Yeah, like that. Like the moment it got hard, he didn't know what to do.
A little bit of pressure.
I love it. Just hey, can we ask you a couple questions? And now he's there forever. Yeah. So for me, it's like
I'm sure he's not going to hold a grudge.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he's blessed.
He'll be really fair about everything.
He's blessed it and released it, as they say. Yeah, he's. Well, it's funny. He just got appointed to, I guess, teach at George Mason, or got hired to teach. And students are like, no, like the students are like revolting against the idea that you wouldn't want a Supreme Court justice to teach you. Shows where we're at. Like you're like, oh, I don't want that guy in here. But I think that like we have to focus on. This is the thing I've learned. It's a long battle. This is back to my Martin Luther King Jr. I may not get there with you. But we can't just focus on the daily in and out. It's fun to focus on the Twitter feed. It's fun to make fun of people, of him tripping over words and saying oranges instead of origin, or saying his dad was born in Germany even though his dad was not born in Germany. But that's just the appetizer. We have to focus on.
There's too much. There's too much. Just people just getting upset about words. Like I was in San Francisco not this year but last year. And I did the Sunday open mic night. There was a transgender man-woman in the back who got upset because I used the word tranny.
Oh yeah.
I say that I've always called San Francisco the Jerusalem of comedy because in my opinion, stand-up comedy was born in San Francisco by Mark Twain on October 4th, 1866. He gave a lecture on the Sandwich Islands, which we now call Hawaii. And it was funny, and that was the beginning of stand-up comedy. Yeah. I love Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, the coldest winter I ever spent was when an Asian tranny blew me with his finger up my ass. It's often misquoted. And, of course, back then you could use the word tranny.
Yeah.
And then so I had this big, back and forth on Facebook, which I should be inspired by you to leave it.
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't have.
And I was telling him you must have missed the clarification that I said that we've evolved. We don't use words like that anymore. Yeah. And why are we upset over a word? I'm on your side.
It's funny.
I see you as an equal human being.
Yeah.
I'm not your problem.
Yeah.
I know people who
are your problem.
Who are your problem.
It's funny because I heard RuPaul was on Mark Maron, and RuPaul was using the word tranny, and RuPaul got pushed back on it. And you think RuPaul's got to be like the governor of the movement, of the sort of the LGBTQ community. That's one of the leaders. But there's this thing that's happening now, and a lot of this is due to social media, and a lot of it's happening with like all the streams are crossing now. So it used to be the people who hated the word tranny were never going to be in a stand-up comedy club. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they were like, that's not my jam. But now we're crossing all the streams constantly, and so the people who, who are more sensitive about things are now in your space, and then it becomes up to us. And I feel it's the stand-up comics who feel like, how important is it for me to sort of be to do this thing? You know what I'm saying? Like I had a joke that had the word faggot in it, and it was like a joke. It's like, no, if you listen to it,
saying it that
no, I wasn't like these need to they need to get they out of the no. It was like I was playing
like Eddie Murphy, 1982.
Yeah. When you turn on Raw, and you're like, oh no, Delirious. Like, whoa,
yeah.
One of the first 3 words on this.
Yeah. And then that album that he put out before Delirious.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the
like
opening bit is called.
Yep.
The F word.
Yeah, and to me, it's like it's this thing where it's like we as stand-up comedians, we're supposed to be outside of polite company, but we're also supposed to be the leaders of pushing the conversation a lot of times. Especially the tradition that you come out of, and the tradition I'm trying to be a part of too, is that we're supposed to be leading the conversation. But now we are in this era where some people are gonna micromanage us, and it becomes our job. And I think it's a job for a comic to go, how important is it for me to do this bit in ways that we didn't used to think about before? So for me, it's like I think it's fine if comics use words that people don't like. It's just about the comic that has to have a different level of thinking about it than they used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it used to be, we were only talking to the people in that room. But now that person goes home to Facebook and says, I saw Tom Rhodes say this thing. And then that comes back to bite you in the ass. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it just becomes about, like, how important is it for me to, for this particular thing, how important is it for me to do the thing? And sometimes with the joke that I said where I had to get for it, it's on my special. I was like, I'm going to hold on to this one, you know. But then sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm going to let that one go. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's just, the culture is looking at all of us in a different way than it used to. And, you know, and so I hear some comics think it's too politically correct, but I feel like, no, you're just being, we are the ones who wanted to be outside of society and use the big boy words. You know what I mean? We're the ones who wanted to sort of like be dangerous. It's more dangerous now than ever before. You know? Yeah. You know, so
I think it's all about good manners and bad manners.
But the other thing I would say is that yes, it's absolutely is that the thing that I've been explained to me of these things is like this. I don't know this person you talk to, but sometimes the person's like, I know you're joking, you know you're joking, you know you're being satirical, I know you're being satirical, but that drunk guy in the front who's just been making out with his girlfriend all night long goes, what, tranny? All right, and he goes to work the next day and tells his friends the joke without any of your aplomb behind it. And that's where people are afraid. Is that like it sort of like gives that drunk guy in the front who's an asshole who got free tickets to get here and doesn't even know who you are. Is like, this guy told the joke about you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where.
Well, I mean, it's good to have a conversation about it. I mean, I wouldn't use the N word or
which is just funny to me because
tranny just it's got a cute ring to it. And in this country. Tom becomes Tommy, and Dave becomes Davey, and I think transsexuals and transvestites invented the word tranny.
Well,
it wasn't like the origin of the N word.
Although there's a constant debate with black people, it still is a debate about like should we use it, should we not use it? We gave it away. Hip hop gave it away. Did we give it away too much? Or we recontextualized it, and now. I've been in that situation where
rename the country Niger.
But that's
why is that
the whole country
on every map in the world?
They're like, hey, wait a minute, we were there first. We were there before you guys decided to turn into a horror area. we were there before you guys called it
land. What are you guys growing there?
But I think it's just that we're in this moment where, like, that's funny because I use the N word all the time, but I wouldn't say tranny. I mean, I said it right now. But I wouldn't say it on stage because of the fact that, like, there's such a level of, like, how much do you want to stand on this pike?
Yeah.
How important is this? And this, I think comics, we were, like, I mean, when I started, and, you started this way, you could say whatever you wanted to, and you could sort of stumble through the bad parts to get to the good part. And eventually you'd be like, man, that joke started out, it was horrible, and now it's good. And now we're in this place of, like Chappelle and Chris Rock locking up people's phones. Because now there's this fear of I can't stumble through the good part. I can't stumble through the bad parts and fall on my face like I used to. Yeah. Because somebody's going to pull it out and,
Well, but, like my favorite kind of audiences are multinational, multi-ethnic, and that's, San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco's changed so much. We'll talk about that later. But, that's like New York and London, and those are like my favorite. A little bit of everybody. Chicago. And, I mean, you wouldn't stand in front of an audience like that. Running your mouth saying, I've never been that kind of comedian.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to shock people. I'm trying to enlighten people.
Yeah. But part of enlightening people is taking them through some shocking alleys. I think that, I love Bill Hicks. I love, George Carlin. Like, these people who are like, Paul Mooney says things that I'm like, man, if I said that.
Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney, my favorite joke is when Jaws was in the theater, he would go to the movies every day and he would get kicked out because he would yell at the screen, Jaws, please come back. You missed some little white people.
And I've seen people around of clubs. I get to over Paul Mooney a lot in the Bay. And people just walk out of clubs in the middle of Paul Mooney like, that is too far. And then he would make fun of them as they walked out. So I certainly, I get nervous when people talk about, like, nobody wants comedy to be like, just like, I agree with that. I agree with everything you're saying. And you definitely want some license to sort of, like, step into some problem areas and figure out how to, like, and sort of show how you finesse your way out of them. But then we're just in a different place now where, like, because of if whatever you say on stage, somebody can go write about it online, and then it becomes something that then confronts you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess that you're absolutely right, and I think the moral of the story with my Mark Twain joke, my sister, who's no longer with us, she used to, when I would sometimes run jokes past her, would say, "That will do until you can think of something better."
That's a good. Every comedian needs that person.
Yeah,
that will do until you think it's so. Because a lot of times as comics, we go, well, it worked good, and then if and you think it's good, and then suddenly you look up one day like, man, somebody's like, there's more there. Why didn't you keep writing that joke? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that as people who write on stage like you do, and as people who are like, it's easy to sort of go, oh, that joke works as an opener. That's done. And put it on the shelf and just polish it. Oh, that's a good joke to have, but that will do until you think of something better, I think should be the standard bearer of comedy. Like that should be what we all, I remember
Laura Rhodes.
Yeah, a guy that I don't know if you're friends with him, but a guy we used to be friends with, he said he would to name his album, these jokes will be better in 6 months. Because it's like you sort of record the album, but you're like, I don't know, Jim Shore.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know. It's just like I'm not trying to get emails from him, or it hasn't gone well. So you can leave this interview.
Okay, I have no idea. The show that you're doing, there's countless episodes. I mean, I think your show could be on daily because there's so many. Because and I didn't realize. I mean, I always knew that things were fucked up racially, and I've always been trying to be the left wing crusader.
Yep.
But I mean, how many episodes are on this season? On the new season?
I mean,
and I'm sure it's not enough to cover everything that's fucked up.
No, it's 8 a season, so we've done 24. This will be 32 at the end of this season. Every year there's things we don't get to. I feel like we're at the point where I feel like we should return and go. We did a Puerto Rico episode. I feel like because we went before the hurricanes, I feel like we need to go back. So there's always these things where it's like even after you do something, you want to go back and see how it's looking now. And so, it's just about like it's a travel show, so it's a lot to put together. So it takes a while to put it all together. Like we started shooting in like early September, and we're still editing. And we shot through December. And we're still, just today before I came to you, I was re-recording VO across the street at CNN. So there's because things happen. Like we have an episode about the LGBT community and Mormons in Salt Lake City. And just yesterday, the church made some announcement where we're like, we need to go back in and redo this thing. So, it's like.
So how do you decide what's the 8 episodes? I mean, that's
a lot. It's all collaborative at this point. Like I sometimes have like a handful that I'm like, we need to do this.
Don Lemon.
What?
Can he give you a little time?
I'll give you a little time. No. Don likes that job. He fought hard for that hour. He's not. No, he'll bring me on for a few minutes.
I didn't think of anybody else.
No, Don's good. Anderson Cooper.
The other white guy who's always angry.
Wolf Blitzer. Jake Tapper.
That's it. Jake Tapper.
Oh yeah, Jake Tapper. Yeah. Jake's a great guy, and also I feel like he'll fight me. I feel like he's a real you could feel his competitive spirit.
I like that.
Yeah. No, he's definitely. It's cool to be around those people over there and just see and to see the off camera and see what matches up and from outside of CNN I had all these thoughts and get in there these, especially with the current era, they give a shit. They're not just reading the news. You know what I mean? They actually care and they want to everybody's going about it a different way. And if I was in that position, I would be doing a different thing. But they are trying to make a difference. And I think the Trump wake up call woke everybody up, including CNN.
That's good. Well, I mean, he specifically singled them out as the enemy.
And CNN
tried to of the people.
And CNN tried to be I was there when the Trump thing when he first came in, and CNN tried to be there was a sense of let's try to be nice here and let's try to improve this relationship.
Taking away the credentials of that.
Yeah, of Jim Acosta. And so it's God. All right, we're gonna
specifically CNN is
Don Lemon had that
that's night. Why I'm saying my family and I know a lot of Americans would never watch your show. They
I mean, and that's the thing I feel is I certainly know I'm not preaching to the choir because CNN's audience is not the audience of people that I hang out with in the Bay Area, so I know that there's people who are especially everybody's got an issue that they feel that's too far, or they have an issue where they're I had no that we're gonna do this Hmong episode And I know there's going to be people who have no knowledge at all, even people who think they're well read. And people
That episode should start with, "Did you see the Clint Eastwood movie Grand Tour?"
Exactly.
He was living in a neighborhood.
There's more to the story. Yeah. So we did an episode about the Sikh religion last year. And the thing that happens, and this happens a lot, is that we did this episode because somebody from the Sikh community, Harpreet Singh, reached out to me on Twitter like, you need to talk about us. And so I was like, let's do it. But now, like, every time the Sikhs are in the news, Sikhs are able to refer people to that episode and go, this is how we'd like to be seen, and this is, if you want to learn more about us, watch this. And so for me, it's like, it's great to be a part of that, you know?
Yeah.
And because I learn as we're doing the show too. And so I think that the great thing is that even if people think they aren't the audience, there's stuff in there, and it's not, it's political in that identity is politics. But you don't got to be on the left or the right to learn more about the Sikhs. You know, you don't got to be on the left or right.
It's not political to learn that everyone is a lovable human being.
And yet we sneak a lot of stuff.
I always thought it was Sikh.
It's more. A lot of Sikhs will say Sikh too, because it's basically, remember it was Peking instead of Beijing.
Yeah,
it's that. Like, so.
Well, I mean, that was the ancient.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, or like it was like Bombay and like no Mumbai. You know what I mean? Like there's this thing where it's like America goes, I think we're gonna say this, or like, you know, I think you guys are Indians. Well, actually, we're not Indian. We're Native. You know, we're Native. Yeah. We're Indigenous. We're whatever. So it's the thing where it's like, it was, I think Americans sort of like pronounced it Sikh, and Sikhs were like, that's fine.
Yeah, and as long as they know who we are.
Exactly. It's like, as long as they're not calling us something else that we're not, you know. So, and then they sort of had, but
the ones with the handsome beards.
Exactly. And the people that you think, that a lot of people think are Muslims that aren't Muslims at all, they're wearing turbans, because turbans are not actually a religious item for Muslims.
You know? Great warriors throughout history, if you read about them and where they were geographically.
See, this is what I'm talking about, Tom Rhodes, everybody.
I know
you should. You travel a lot, and you learn, and you read, and you pay attention.
But you mentioning, the Sikhs doing an episode, the first thing I think about is the shooting in Wisconsin.
Yes, and we talked about that.
Which makes my mind instantly think of the shooting in New Zealand.
Yeah, and so that came up, and we were...
one of the most disgusting things to happen. I haven't been that appalled since the Charleston church shooting.
Yeah.
So I know you think I was joking when I said Civil War, but I think it's not going to be like a full-blown Civil War.
It'll be a series of skirmishes around the country.
I think that's what it's going to be like. You're going to have like angry whack job weirdos hitting specific targets, and then now because of that fuckwit in New Zealand, they're probably going to be filming it on a GoPro on their helmet.
And well, and the thing that it was so, but the thing that New Zealand did right is that the Prime Minister's of New Zealand immediately like banned
instantly.
Yeah, it was like, oh well, we got to do that.
Yeah.
But first thing we're gonna do, that's done.
We don't have to run this by the NRA or anyone else.
We don't have to wonder what the other side's gonna think, because I think we're on the side of humanity and people living and people not being mowed down. So, I think that it's definitely like there's this. Just when you think it's not going to get any worse, it gets worse. So I think after Sandy Hook is always the touchstone for me. For like that would have been the time you would have thought that everybody could have come together and go, okay, we need
kids, man.
Yeah, little kids.
The bullets on those things were like 3.5 inches long.
And yet, what we do is have like
kids. That still breaks my heart.
And what we have is instead is like we were interviewing or people, legitimate journalists were like, well, Alex Jones thinks this didn't happen, so let's talk to him. You know what I mean? That we're acting like there's two sides to every issue.
Hopefully he's going to have to pay that family who's taking him to court now.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
And now he's saying it was psychosis.
Psychosis. Yeah.
Psychosis. Really? Was that what it was? I think it was to make more
to sell more your
doomsday products.
Yeah, to sell more your doomsday pills. Yeah. So I think that we have to stop both sidesing everything. We have to stop, and there are things that are going to get worse. But I think I feel like my role in this is to run as fast as I can and do as much as I can to figure out as many different levels to support all this while still doing my job as a comedian. Like, I'm still trying to be a comic.
It must be a tough balance because, I know you've, since before you were famous.
Oh, yeah.
And that balance of being a comedian and then also, me looking at it like, man, it's really important what you're doing. And, to enlighten people more than go for a joke or.
I mean, I think if I'm on stage with stand up, that's one version of me as a comedian. If I'm doing United States, that's a different version. But I'm still thinking with a comedic mind. And also, for me, luckily, I don't think the pressures on my shoulders is to deliver it to the people. It's not to actually provide all the information. Like the more that I'm sort of just like the conduit for the people for the sick episode, the more that I'm just sort of like and they talk and I go funny thing, and then they I just sort of like the more that I'm not holding the weight of like the information, the better it is for me, and the more that I can get down into like the how do we make this fun and interesting. Like we have an episode this year that your brother's gonna hate about the last abortion clinic in Jackson, Mississippi, and it's filled with a bunch of badass activist women who are like, it's gonna get bad, and they think Roe v. Wade is gonna be overturned, but we're going to still do the work. And so for me, that's what sort of inspired me.
I think we're headed that way too.
Yeah, that we're going to still do the work. No matter, people are going to still come to us, and we're going to still do what we can to provide, to help people. So to me, that's the thing I feel like is like the history of this country is that no matter how bad it gets, there are people who are like, I'm going to still do the work. And so I feel like I'm in a tremendous position of privilege. Not that I don't get frustrated, or not that I don't get like angry about like how things are going, or sometimes I do have this thing of like right now with this episode about Mormons and the LGBTQ plus church, I'm not trying to indict all Mormons, and I'm not trying to make fun of their religion, because if you're going to start making fun of religions, we can make fun of all religions. But I'm also like, there's things that are a problem here. And at the same time, I'm not trying to say that they're the worst with LGBTQ plus people, because every major religion has these issues. And so there's a lot, the hard part is the nuance, because it would be easy as a comic in me just to sort of like make jokes about the Mormon religion and then sort of go gay people are great or trans people are great. But that's not the nuance and the sort of the true version of the story, We have to make sure we get Mormons in the episode who are like good people who do support the LGBTQ plus community, so it doesn't look like I'm just some like big city liberal shitting on Mormons,
Yeah.
And I wasn't raised to disrespect other religions, so why would I do that, So, but it's easy to be seduced in production of TV, as you may know, to sort of being a more blunt force version of yourself instead of the scalpel version of yourself that you are when you're your best.
Well, good way to put it. How much does your producers like the balance of like sometimes like can you hold back on the funny when you're at the abortion thing? I mean, me, I'd probably break down crying in that situation.
Well, luckily the show in the first season I broke down crying.
Does a good job.
Luckily in the first season I broke down crying and people seem to like it. So now I feel like if I want to cry,
every season finale.
It's like now it's a little bit like, hold on a second, let me get the glycerin, put some eye drops in my eyes so I can really cry in the scene. But the show works best when it's a fully three-dimensional version of me. So if it's like, if I'm confused, let's say I'm confused. I'm not always trying to go for the joke. I'm not always just sitting there waiting for my time to joke. But in any conversation I'm having, and this is a comic, we're just figuring out ways to be funny because that's how we communicate. So the minute I sort of relaxed from like trying to be funny to just sort of like, at some point I'll say something funny. And then I'm always thinking about the edit. So there's times when you're like, oh, this would be a good callback. You know what I mean? Because you're just as a comic, you're like, oh, if I say this here.
And then I'm sure, like with the voiceover, you can layer in
and you can layer
thoughts
more
and jokes that you might have missed.
And you can sort of like So I think, and I can be more. The more humble I am in it, the more sort of self-deprecating I am. It works too. But like, I'm really happy because that scene, the thing in Jackson, I went there sort of afraid that it was going to be a bummer, but all the women who we talked to were like, yeah, this is what we do. And they weren't bummed out about it, so I wasn't bummed out about it, And at the same time, I take it seriously, so if they're talking about like Roe v. Wade being overturned, I'm like, holy shit, But I'm happy about it because it's clear from what we do in the episode, which side I'm on. I'm not here like going, I don't know what to think. A lot of times in the early producers who were on the show formerly were trying to put me in the position of this. I was I was being housed underground and cracked out of a crate, and like today I went outside and I learned about Chicago violence. As opposed to like, no, I'm from Chicago. I know these neighborhoods. I don't know these people, but I'll get to know them. So they were acting like I was like an alien, like I was Starman, like trying to learn how to be human. And I'm like, no. And so the thing that's helped
was great. Remember he had the 3 balls.
It's been a long time since I saw Starman.
And shit was like he brought like a deer back to life.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
That was like the coolest thing.
Yeah. So
I love that film.
And that's
Starman.
And I'm just, but they should read that. That's due for a remake.
You humans are best when you are working together in tragedies.
See, look at this.
That's what I love that film. That's the greatest thing. Humans are at your best when you are working together.
And I think for me it was just like I can't be learning that lesson every week. And the show sort of made it look like I was like, you know what? It turns out when people work together, they always work back. Like, it's like, I can't be learning that lesson every week. It's like, and then when they power me down, I go, shoo, and then the week, oh, I'm blank of knowledge again. So for me, the show has worked best when I'm bringing in, like, my friends or people that I worked with or, like, people who I admire. Like, we have a DC episode, which is, like, the best example of that, because in the DC episode, April Ryan's in it, who's the White House reporter who goes at Sarah Palin and is the woman who Trump asked when she asked, are you going to meet with the Congressional Black Caucus? And she's a reporter for the White House. And he goes, do you know him? Can you set up the meeting? And she's like, just a black woman who's working at, like, I'm not with them. I'm just a reporter.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and
like you're black, you obviously you must have their number.
Yeah, can you set it up? I'd love to meet with them. You set it up. And in that episode, so I like her as somebody from far away that I've seen. I got to sort of bear the episode. And then I also
got going up to an Asian person. Can you introduce me to Jackie Chan?
Which people have done. We lived through the 80s.
I'm a big fan of his movies. You
must know him. You must know him. But and then in that episode, I'm a huge lifetime fan of Henry Rollins, and so Henry Rollins is from DC, and so we have him in the episode talking about his DC experience.
Nice.
You know, so for me, it's like that's the thing that's fun is when I can sort of use my life and the things I've experienced and the people I admire to come into the episode to sort of like make it feel more like this is my life you're seeing. You know, yeah, you're just with me on this. Like this is one week in my life, not like I'm an alien. I'm not hosting the show. The show's happening around me. You know.
I'm just impressed that you know the movie Star Man. Huge bonus point.
I do what I can.
But how big is the team that works on the show? I know, and I have to praise Dwayne Kennedy because he's one of my favorite humans and comedians, and I saw him when I was in Chicago last September. And you guys were having a break from filming and stuff, so I was asking. You know, we were talking about you and the show and everything.
I mean, I've known Dwayne since I was 2 weeks into comedy. And he I
think one of the most underrated comedians of all time.
And it's his fault.
Well,
I mean, as far as like if he showed up more, whenever he shows up and wants work, people give him work. But he just, I mean, I've told Dwayne this to his face, so I'm not breaking any news. It's just Dwayne is like he's like the playground legend basketball player, like you know, like in Oakland it was Hook Mitchell, who like everybody's like he was better than all of us. Dwayne's better than all of us. He just sort of like doesn't want to do the things that the rest of us are doing, you know. He doesn't want to be on the road. He wants to live in Chicago and hang out, you know. So
yeah.
But he's a genius.
He's a genius, and I've been fortunate to have been his friend for forever. And I've told him, you know, he always inspires me to write, to work harder.
Yeah.
The mini essays that he lays out on his life and topics is like that's the kind of writing I want to do.
And the thing that I feel so good about my life, I met this guy 2 weeks into comedy at an open mic in Chicago. He used to just let me hang out with him when I was nowhere close to funny. And I remember I could hear people being like, "Wait, why are you bringing this dude around here?" You know, like, "Why are you bringing Kamau around?" And just because he was like, I like him. And so I feel it's a tremendous privilege in my life to be able to work with him and bring him onto projects. He was on Totally Biased. He's on United Shades. He helped me put my Netflix special together. And on top of that, my 4-year-old is like, if you go, who are your buddies? She'll be like, Dwayne. And she thinks of Dwayne as one of her friends, you know, because he's hung out in our house and slept in our house before. So it's to feel connected to where I came from is really good. And so the first season he wasn't on the show, and in the second season we were like we should bring a comic around, and Dwayne wasn't available. But since this third season, he's been just traveling with the show. Sometimes it's about jokes, sometimes it's about questions that Dwayne has, and sometimes it's just good to have that guy there, you know, so you don't feel crazy, you know. So Dwayne now he's a producer on the show, which is great. I feel like I'm making him make it in show business, whether he wants to or not.
Great.
But so Dwayne, and then we have like a director, like a producer director on the show. We have like 2 camera guys, a sound guy, camera tech, and we have
that's a big team.
No, it's it's about 10 or 12 people out in the field, and so, you know, and then we
hire Bourdain would hit it with just like 2 guys.
It's like right? I was like 4 or 5 people. Yeah, okay. yeah. No, it's and ours isn't big because it necessarily. We require that. It's really the production company we work with. That's how they do it. Okay. Like I'm always like, can we leave some of these people behind? Like, you know, but they're more. It's a more company thing, so they're more lawyered up. I think, so they want to make sure they have all their bases covered. But you know, I got to go to Kenya with Bourdain's crew.
Well, that's what I wanted to also bring up. I didn't get to see that episode, but
I'm not saying
Kenya's one of the places I dream of going, and
he had never been there before.
You got to be on what I think is the greatest travel show, television show of all time.
I mean, I do that show is, because it still exists, is the gold standard. Like, it's like, to me, there's like things that humanity has done that are great.
Yeah.
And you sort of take it out of genre, or, you know, if you go Sistine Chapel, parts unknown. You know, like, I feel like it's all like these. I
agree, and that's but that show for me, because I travel the world.
Yeah, of course.
I've gotten to, you know, that's been my template of I've eaten where Obama and Bourdain ate in Hanoi, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
they put a glass box over.
I saw a picture of that.
Table.
Yeah, and left everything where they had left it. Like.
But I've gained so much information from that show.
And he was an amazing. I didn't know him before I got to CNN. I'd watched his show for years, and met him for the first time at the first Emmys I went to, because we were nominated, and he won, and he immediately was like, I just sort of walked up to him to say hello, because we hadn't met before, and I thought I fully believed he might be like, and who are you? You know, like why would he know who I was? But apparently he had been watching the show since the first episode, and he was like, we should do something together, and it took us a couple years to put it together, and I couldn't have been, when it happened, I was like, I felt like I'd won a contest, and I was sort of trying to be aware of, like, not looking like I won a contest.
Hanging out with Prince or Mick Jagger.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're going to do it in Kenya.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to need you on stage to play tambourine. What? Okay. I felt like the tambourine player. And, you know, through the shoot, like, Mo, who's one of the producers of the show, was, like, telling me, like, you're doing a good job. And I was like, thanks, because I don't know what
what was it? What was the experience like? What all did you do in Kenya?
So I'd never been to Kenya, and Bourdain had never been to Kenya. So for a lot of people in Kenya, they would see him and be like, what took you so long? Now, Kamau is a Kikuyu name from Kenya, so every Kenyan, people knew who I was, even though the show doesn't air over there, because I was, like, a famous Kamau in the world. And also because they'd see me to stand up, but they'd find out I was Kamau. They knew I was not Kenyan because I don't look Kenyan. Breaking news: not all black people look the same.
I dated a Kenyan woman for a while.
Yeah.
And she was tiny. She was like 5'2".
Yeah, there are a lot. Like, there are some tall ones, like the Maasai are tall, but they're much more narrow than my West African black stock. So, like, they're much narrower, and their features are a lot finer than mine are. So they knew I was not Kenyan. And also, there's a darker skin than mine is. But they knew I was not Kenyan, but as soon as they found out my name was Kamau, they'd ask why my name was Kamau. I'd tell them the story of my parents and how they found that name, and they're like, okay, good.
How did they find it?
They lived in East Palo Alto, California. At that point, East Palo Alto was going by the name, wanted to rename itself Nairobi, California, out of tribute to Nairobi, Kenya.
Too bad we missed that.
Yeah. That'd have been...
Especially since Silicon Valley.
Yeah, no. Facebook, headquartered in Nairobi, California. This is East Palo Alto, not regular Palo Alto. But, yeah. So they were part of a tribe in Nairobi, California, and I was a baby born into the tribe, and they wanted to give me a Kenyan name because they were fans of the Kenyans from kicking out the Brits. And, so I was named Kamau, which means quiet warrior. And in Kenya, naming your kid Kamau is like naming your kid John here. Like, every other person has the name either as a last name or somewhere else. It's Kamau. So yeah, and then we got, like, it was the first thing we shot was like me and him walking down the street talking, like you've seen in every episode of Parts Unknown. Like, we were something like, oh, we're doing this. He said he was going to tease me because I'd never been to Africa, and he thought it was funny. And I was like, what took you so long, man? And from that point forward, it was just like, it was easy, you know? We sat down. It was weird to be on that show, seeing the scenes, being in the scenes that you've seen a trillion times. Like, you know, they bring the food over,
right?
They bring you a beer, and you're sitting there having the conversation while you eat the food, and it was. And the place we first went to, they were like happy to have him there, but also said, don't shoot the front of it because we don't want tourists coming here.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's like it showed a lot that they respected him and his crew enough to say, yeah, you can come here. But don't blow up our spot. Like, this is not.
There's ruined some spots. There's a Szechuan restaurant in Shanghai that I've hit.
Yeah.
Because of him, and then that place in Hanoi. There's always a line.
Yeah. And so they were
in Hanoi. That's actually not the best, but it's just where they ate.
It's just where they ate. Know? Yeah. They probably because it was probably good sight lines and good lights.
Yeah.
So yeah,
maybe.
But or Tony liked it, but. So yeah, and then we got to go on safari, you know, so we spent a lot of time in Nairobi proper and got to meet lots of cool people and ate a lot of good food. He also shot like 2 scenes a day, which is different than my show. We would shoot 4 and 5 scenes a day. So like the call would be at like 11 and I'd be able to wake up and sort of like have breakfast and then go to the call. We'd shoot for a couple hours.
Was that because that's the way he likes to?
That's the way he likes it. And also they used to shoot a lot.
Why do you have to wake up at 6 in the morning to wake up television?
Regularly on the United States waking up at 6 in the morning. So it really affected when I came back from there. I called the producers of the United States like we have to do things differently. So. But yeah, like, and then you go
do things the way Anthony.
Yeah, it's like everybody gets a good night's sleep. Everybody's smiling. We're not like grunting and gunning. And so we would shoot for 2 hours. Then Tony would be like we'd be like, all right, we have one more shoot tonight. And Tony would be like, all right, I'm gonna go take a nap. And I'd be like, what do I do now? Like, it's just like I'm so used to like the whole day being packed. And so I got to wander around Kenya a little bit. I went to Westgate Mall where the shooting was. The shootings we were right around the corner from there. Yeah, and it was just everywhere you went in Kenya, especially not everywhere, but all the big buildings, you had to there's metal detectors to go in and out of places. And then so we hung around in Kenya. They did an episode about the LGBT community in Kenya, and they said, and Mo said we did he's like, your show does a lot of these issues, and we want to make sure you're doing things you would do. And I was like, all right. So we got to talk to artists, and then we got to go on safari, and I got to see lions and elephants and rhinos and zebras, and got to sit on. The best part for me was we were on safari at Lewa Wilderness, and we sat on the side of a hill drinking gin and tonics, and we were talking about Kenya and Africa and da-da-da-da-da, and then we were doing wide shots, and so they cut back from the wide shots, and I knew they weren't going to use this stuff for the show. It was just to get the wide shots so they could edit. And I got to tell him why he was so important to me, just because it was I'd been watching him since before I knew I could even have a show like this.
Yeah.
And
this was not on film.
They filmed it, but I was like, they're never going to use this because this is just to get but then because he passed away, they used it in the show. So it's me telling him why he's so important to me, and then him saying how lucky he feels to make television.
Wow.
And so with the context of everything around, it just feels super spooky and heavy, and also it's he's letting us know despite what I did, I cherished the fact that I got to make this TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did he give you any advice?
Tons of advice. A lot of it was about fighting for music. He's fight for good music in your show. Don't let them tell you have to use crappy music. Let the camera guys go out and shoot B-roll. They love B-roll. Use more B-roll. The more B-roll you have in the show, the less you have to do. He was give me advice on how to do voiceover. He's don't worry if you make mistakes. Just have fun with it.
What, the voiceover?
Yeah. So I think he had watched some of my shows, so I think he was giving me notes on things he'd seen, but in a very inviting, in a very well, what gonna do? Not listen to him, So. Yeah. And then we also had tons of conversations about politics, and he has an 11-year-old daughter. There's an 11-year-old daughter, and our kids, and he clearly loved his kid, and he was in love with his girlfriend, and there's a lot of Me Too was happening. There's a lot of Me Too talk, and so and then we'd hang out after every day. He would the crew would all go to the hotel bar and sit around and eat dinner and talk, and it was just I soaked it all up, and at some point he's like, when am I gonna do your show? And I was wow, now? Let's fly from here. And so I started thinking about ideas, and then a few months later he was gone. So
was there did you see him around the CNN building at all?
No, he was. So
it was really just that Kenyan experience.
He shot 16 episodes a year.
Was there any indication that he's
nothing? I mean, not only did I not see anything, but everybody I know who was close with him had been working for with him for 15 years.
Yeah.
None of those people saw anything. The people who were
wow.
with him all the time, none of those people saw this coming. Now, Tony definitely was a dude who, as I've said before, was a heavy-hearted dude. Some people just carry you got a little bit of that. Have a heavy heart. But it doesn't mean that they're likely to kill themselves. It just means some people experience the world in a more wide-open way. And so he definitely had that. But my best friend in Chicago has a heavy heart. It's just things that people, but there was nothing about him that said, and he said, I've really, I said, lucky to do this show, or I pinch myself sometimes because I can't believe, he's when I was 44 years old, I was dunking French fries in New York restaurants, and now I'm on this. Now I'm never thinking I would see any part of the world, and now we're sitting here in Kenya. And so he clearly appreciated what he was doing, and was excited about it, but also didn't suffer fools gladly, and didn't do anything other than what he wanted to do. Sometimes I'd see Mo, the director producer, come up and be like, "Hey man, can we da da da?" And Tony would just look at him, and Mo would be like, all right, never mind. Just walk away. I'm not doing. He didn't even have to say no. He's like, I'm not doing that.
He's one of my all-time heroes, and then and enhanced my life traveling
Absolutely.
the world, and I think
He was a fan of comedy. He was a fan of comics,
But like comedians travel so much, and that's what's killed every relationship I've ever been in. And it's like it's the hardest thing about being a comedian is the traveling and the sitting alone in hotel rooms is the killer. And that's why people do drugs. I mean, fortunately, I like to read and and be creative. But like the thing that I thought, Bourdain was doing that on the 5-star hotel level, and flying first class, and then it was still leaving too much for him.
I mean, I think that like all that stuff gets to sort of starts to become the same after a while. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm not, as somebody who's done it on the cheap, and as somebody now that that CNN will fly me around first class or whatever, it all starts to be versions of the same thing, and it's like you're still in a room that's not your home. I mean, for me, like whenever I hear comedians who have killed themselves, I feel like, and I'm ordaining in this category, it's a hard life, man, and you know this.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, no matter how good the show was, you got to go back to the hotel room, and then you got to figure out how to come down from that show, especially if it was a great show. Like, how do I?
Well, I don't think you'd be killing yourself after a great show.
Not killing yourself, but you got to figure out what to do with that energy.
No, I know. Yeah,
and that thing becomes self-destructive.
And that's why Pryor did coke.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I mean, it's why,
I know that very well.
People do ice cream. People do I think that's why comedians go to diners at 2 a.m. because it's just like, I just need to keep the thing going. You know what I mean? So I think that like, I don't know. I have no idea why he did it or what he was thinking, and who knows? Maybe if he had a second thought, he wouldn't have done it. But it's certainly like the lifestyle. Like I was in Kenya with him for 11 days, and then we went to, and then I went home because I was gone for 11 days, and I was like, I gotta go home. He was going to West Texas to keep shooting.
Wow.
So it's like I think he was on the road. He was on the road a lot because 8 episodes a year, 16 episodes a year means you're on the road most of the year.
Well, I hope CNN repeats those episodes the way TBS does Seinfeld, just for forever and ever at 7 o'clock. I
can't imagine how they would not figure out a way to get it back on the schedule, just because they're all great and they all deserve repeated viewings, and they all
even I'll watch like interviews of him on YouTube.
I do that too,
and like him at the Sydney Opera House and these different things, and they're so great to hear his philosophies. And the one episode I don't think he ever got to make was, he said he wanted to make an episode on Queens.
Oh,
and all the great food in Queens.
He has a Queens episode.
Oh, there is.
There's a Queens, because one of my friend Hari Kondabolu's.
I'm staying in the Lower East Side on Bowery this week.
Yeah, did you see his Lower East Side episode? One of the last episodes of this year, the last episode of the whole series was the Lower East Side.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Fucking amazing.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not shitting.
Oh my god!
I'm not. It's
as soon as
you got to get to it. As soon as I
post this episode, I got to find it.
It is. I mean, and it's also amazing because by the
you
time
think it's on YouTube or no?
I mean, everything. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
no shit.
Yeah, but it's like the thing that's so great. The thing that makes it so powerful is that by the time they were editing it, he had passed away.
Yeah.
So you can tell that the editor was like locked himself in a room. Was like, I'm not fucking this up. Like he was, it feels like you could feel the editor being like, "I'm going to edit this like it's great. The last. I'm going to edit this like it's the last parts are known and ever going to be edited," which it was, So it's
you just told me there was a James Brown or Van Morrison record that was just discovered.
Yeah, just it's.
I'm going to get Lower East Side for Life tattooed across my stomach before I leave this week. Yeah. So let me ask you 2 more questions. I love you, man. I really appreciate you, giving me some time to.
I mean, you were important to me before you ever knew who I was. So I'm happy to. One of the great privileges of my life is when you came back to San Francisco. Like I moved there in '97, and there was a period where you started coming back around more, and just going to the Cobbs and just seeing you work out the new stuff and I knew who you were from before that. When I got to San Francisco, there was always Tales of Tom Rhodes, and then to sort of be there in the room and just seeing you, it was just one of the great privileges of my life. So I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Which perfectly sets up one of my last questions.
Right.
Has the soul of San Francisco been gutted forever? Is it possible to have ethnicity and arts and musicians come back to San Francisco?
I mean, I live in Oakland now.
Yeah.
I lived in San Francisco for 13 years, and I say to my wife Melissa sometimes, I think we're going to have to move to Hayward because I think Oakland's going to be in Hayward in about 10 years. Everything is being pushed further and further out. So I mean, it's funny. Now when I go to San Francisco, I feel like that old man at the end of Shawshank Redemption. When did the world get itself in such a goddamn hurry? Like, it's very, like...
It's all like white little techie kids.
Yeah, and it's all like... And it's also like the new gentrification where they sort of keep the facade of the building but do the inside so it looks it looks the same, but it's different based on who's around. I mean, I think that it's a wrap on San Francisco. Like, I don't think it's... I mean, it's done. I mean, because Oakland's...
Because, like, where I live, the Western Addition, which now is called NOPA.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
I lived on Alamo Square Park, and Divisadero was... the Fillmore is short walk from there. But, so the Fillmore and Western Addition was, like,
that's black.
The black neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the Stronghold. Divisadero, there were militant black kiosks that sold like rap bootlegs, reggae
Malcolm X
bootlegs.
speeches.
I still have Malcolm X speeches on cassette.
Yep.
And I still have them.
Yeah.
And they are still relevant. You still can't trust Whitey.
No, it seems right.
They still hold up.
Now they're on YouTube.
And then there was the John Coltrane Church, and you go there now, and it's like it's $20 avocado toast, and
I mean, there's definitely still people of color in San Francisco. The Mission sells a lot of Latino people, but it's like people who are barely holding on to be there, and certainly aren't being encouraged to be there. So there's certainly still, because I don't want to be like there's no black people there. No, there's still I think we did an episode about Chinatown in San Francisco, and I realized the smartest thing that Chinese people did, and they're suffering from gentrification in Chinatown too, which is crazy. But the thing that San Francisco can't do is they can't lose it because it's a source of income. Chinatown's going to have to stay, even though
it's on the tourist.
It's on people are coming there to go to Chinatown, but even Chinatown is experiencing gentrification and like rents going up, and it's like, so in that sense, like I mean, Oakland isn't as black as it used to be. People right now are trying to fight gentrification.
Well, what happened to Oakland is what happened to Brooklyn. Everybody, Manhattan gotten expensive, and all the cool artsy people moved.
And the problem
there.
is that really I make fun about Hayward, but a lot of people aren't moving to Hayward. They're moving back east to wherever their family came from. I think I go back to Indianapolis. You know what I mean? Like, it's like people are moving out of the Bay Area. So it's like, I mean, I love Oakland, and I'm glad we live in Oakland, but there's a land rush out there. It's
I had to, I was staying down in the Embarcadero, doing the Punchline last week, and I went to visit my friend who lives over in the Mission. So I thought, I'll do the lift pool. And so I'm in the car, and there was this young guy. He's like, he couldn't have been more than 23, 24.
Yeah.
And he's talking on the phone, no manners to begin with. And he calls his friend, and I had to call you, tell you that I just had the most amazing lamb shank of my life. And I'm like, I didn't have fucking lamb shank until I was in my 40s.
Exactly.
He's 23 and he's already had multiple lamb shank experiences.
Exactly.
He's making that much money
to compare them to. Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what's happening because now they have the Google. I mean, they've had it for a while, but like those buses that will take them directly from San Francisco down to Silicon Valley because those people don't want to live in Silicon Valley because it's not hip and cool.
Yeah.
Little do they know they're making San Francisco less hip and cool. So. Yeah, I'm certainly not on the scene in San Francisco the way I was, but like I was in the Fillmore with my friend Nato, and Fillmore used to be still, even at the end, it was still a little bit like the side of it there's a side of it that became all nice, but then there's a side of it where like Yoshi's, where the Fillmore Club is, was still a little grimy. That grime is gone. Like and I don't mean grimy and crimey. I just mean like it was like a place where you could get cheap food.
That's right where I live.
Yeah, and it's
walk
like
down McAllister, take a left on Fillmore.
Yeah,
that was my spot.
it's I mean, it's a wrap. I think it's not what. And it's funny because I always tell people when I got there in '97, people are like, "Oh, you missed it. It used to be so cool." And I'm like, man, I feel like I can say that now.
I moved there in '90, man. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. When I got there in '97, the people like you were like, "Oh no, this is used to be." But rents were still relatively affordable in '97, and that first .com boom hit, and now the second one doesn't look like it's gonna blow up anytime soon. And, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't live anywhere else. I like living in Oakland. It feels like where my family belongs. But I also feel like part of living there is like fighting for it and like trying to do what I can to, like that's why it's like the thing I was talking about, donor shoes, like trying to support the people in your area, because your tax dollars aren't going to do it because your tax dollars they're not aiming your tax dollars towards the school. They're aiming your tax dollars towards big business.
So if we want to find that to donate money, so we just do donor shoes.
Donorshoes.org. DONORSCHOOSE.org. Donors Shoes.
Okay, I'll put that in the
and you can put your zip code in of your of wherever you grew up or where you live now, and it'll show you multiple schools in your area that teachers are like. And the great thing is, there's projects that are like for $5,000 where you can give them $50. There's projects that are like, we need $200. You just give them $200. You know what I mean? Or you give them $50. But you will feel, and if you do it, you can actually have this setup that like the students will then send you thank you cards, and you'll get artwork, and you'll feel. It's a way to, in the midst of like after. This is how I use it. Like, say an argument you had with your brother who told you about we're at war. You have all that stored up, like, oh, what do I do? Go give a kid $50. You know what I mean? Like, right. We have to figure out a way to turn that energy into something positive and not just sort of like turn it into a Facebook rant,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's beautiful that people can do something other than block their brother on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, do that too, but then also,
My last question is, why do we get President's Day off, but we don't get the day we vote for president off?
This is, again, the systems. We have to shift systems. Like Australia, it's against the law to not vote.
Yeah, you have to. You get a fine.
Now, it's not a huge fine, apparently.
Right, but it's like a parking ticket.
Yeah, it's like a parking ticket.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like people go, but why should we? It's just a party. Then just go vote. And also, in places there's like a 3-day weekend or a holiday, or everybody gets a day off from work. This is where we have to. I feel like this is where there are people who are working to create voting holidays, and you can Google those people and start helping them do their thing. And you have a platform, and they'd be happy to have you. You know what I mean? If you can find a pet issue that you feel like this is the one I want to invest my time in,
I would like to get involved.
That's another. There's certainly people who would be like, oh, we got Tom Rhodes who can be on stage. We'll give you a T-shirt and put this as your avatar and all this kind of stuff. There's certainly people who are working on those things, because that's what I'm saying. It's systems we have to fix so that it is less likely to get a game show host as our president again. Like, we can't. He may get 2 terms, and it's and unless the Democrats.
I like to call him the urine pawn.
Exactly. He may get 2 terms, and we have to sort of figure out our way through that. And I know a lot of people in Berkeley are like, I didn't think we'd make it through Reagan either, but we made it through Reagan. So and a lot of people on your brother probably didn't think we'd make it through Obama, but we made it through Obama. Yeah. So.
This too shall pass.
Yeah, it's like, and my dad, when Trump was first elected, I asked my dad who's from
this president will do until we can think of it better.
Exactly. Well, I think you just closed it out. This mic drop right there. Yeah, that we can find a pet issue, find a way to do some good, and understand that we can't focus on him. We have to focus on the system.
Cool. I'm going to watch Starman as soon as possible.
Oh, and also
the Lower East Side episode,
and watch my
Kenya, your brand new season.
That'll be we get Kenya, Lower East Side, Starman, and then I'll warm you up for April 28th for my show.
I love you very much, Kamau, I got nothing but respect, and now, like I said, and I mean it, your show is more important than ever. It's probably the most important. It should be on all the channels.
Well, I certainly, I'm just glad to have found my way through this business in a way that I feel like I'm putting out work I am proud of, and people are appreciating it, because not all of us get to do that. Yeah.
Well, long may you run, brother.
All right, brother.
Long may you run.
Thanks, man.
Tom Rhodes, you're a funny man. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedian. Tom Rhodes, karate kick, baby, oh yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're a groovy dude. You go all around the world, telling jokes to all of the people. You are an international comedian. You're funny to everybody in every single country in the world. Tom Rhodes, I like you very much. I think you're talented and very wonderful. Tom Rhodes, you're the best guy in the world. I wanna be your friend, you should call me sometime. Here is my phone number, 603-644-0048. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedic sensation. Tom Rhodes, I like to listen to your podcast. Tom Rhodes, you're the best man to ever walk on the earth.